It all begins with a television broadcast referencing the events of Tron Legacy, the creation of the grid by Kevin Flynn and all the technological breakthroughs that came from it. We see the execution of a program booting up inside the central computer. A being slowly takes shape until it becomes fully conscious. Staring at itself in a mirror, it struggles to understand its own existence. Suddenly, a second program appears and attacks, ending its life. Moments later, the first program regenerates, brought back by the programmer who analyzes the failure and applies a patch to fix it. The fight plays out again, but this time the program manages to advance a little further, and so it goes, facing increasingly difficult opponents. After countless battles, the boss, satisfied with its performance, shuts down the simulator. The entity then enjoys a brief moment of calm, gazing at the vast cybernetic city around it. Out of nowhere, a platform rises, revealing a drive disk stamped with the Dillinger name. Moments later, its creator appears. Not knowing who this is, the entity prepares to defend itself, but the creator tells it not to be afraid, claiming to be its father. He explains that it was destined to be the guardian of the grid, the master control, and gives it a name, ARES. The scene shifts. We're transported to Antarctica, where someone is illegally tapping into a power tower. Soon after, the figure returns to base and is revealed to be Eve Kim, one of the sisters who inherited the Encom Corporation. The place is covered in photos of her and her sister. Eve powers up the computer systems and plays a video file she had prepared. In it, her sister congratulates her for making it this far and admits she wishes she could be there. But because of the circumstances, Eve must continue on her own. Next, we're taken to a Dillinger conference. The boss takes the stage and declares that the future has arrived. He proclaims that guidance will come into the real world, rather than us entering it. Then, a tactical response tank materializes through laser synthesis, and from it emerges ARES. The boss outlines its abilities, calling it a super soldier, one that can regenerate even after being defeated, making it practically indestructible and disposable at the same time. While he describes these features, ARES scans every detail of his surroundings with precision, even the falling raindrops. After the presentation, ARES meets his creator, who is with his mother. The creator scolds him, saying that after 29 minutes, his creation will no longer physically exist, putting sponsor money at risk since they expect a permanent result. Moments later, both ARES and the vehicle begin to painfully disintegrate. ARES reawakens inside the software back in the base. Meanwhile, Eve continues searching through her sister's disks. Set interrupts, asking for a bit of attention since she's been ignoring him. As she tries to reconcile the files, the iconic Tron sound echoes in the background. Finally, she finds the line of code she was looking for, shaped like a double helix, almost like DNA. She records the process and tests the permanence code, applying it to an orange tree. The 29-minute countdown begins, to see if the code actually works. Back inside the base, ARES regains consciousness. Other programs are there, including Athenia, another entity who could be considered his companion. She asks what it was like in the real world. ARES struggles to explain, saying it was unlike anything he had ever known, that for the first time he felt something different. He almost managed to feel the rain. But Athenia can't quite understand what he means. Meanwhile, Eve notices that the orange tree remains stable, successfully passing the 29-minute limit. The scene changes once more. In Dillinger's headquarters, the boss is confronted by his mother, who questions his unethical choices. He defends himself, insisting that in the end, it will all be worth it, because they'll be the first to obtain the permanence code. Determined, he declares that he'll infiltrate Encom's servers to secure it. Inside the digital world, Dillinger's cyber soldiers begin their infiltration of Encom's central building. The squad is led by ARES, with Athenia and several others at his side. As they attempt to gain access, they're attacked by the system's antivirus defenses. ARES manages to evade them and eventually hacks into the network, uncovering personal information about Eve. As he processes the data, something begins to change within him. He starts to corrupt, experiencing completely new sensations. For the very first time, he feels empathy. Meanwhile, in the real world, a security guard notices the intrusion and immediately sounds the alarm. The scene shifts again. At Encom's headquarters, the head of technological development is preparing a presentation for the upcoming video game convention, where they plan to unveil their latest project. But just before the event begins, the servers crash under Dillinger's cyber attack. Inside the system, an antivirus appears and begins targeting ARES. The security protocol kicks in, while ARES continues to absorb vast amounts of data and knowledge at incredible speed. His creator realizes that control over the program is slipping away. The source of this instability becomes clear when ARES witnesses Kim and her sister's personal memories, seeing their bond and discovering that one of them died of cancer. For the first time, ARES feels emotion within his artificial being. Eventually, ARES retrieves the file his creator had been searching for, but as they attempt to escape with it, they're ambushed by a massive wave of NCOM soldiers, triggering an intense battle. During the fight, one of ARES' teammates is gravely injured. Athenia urges him to retreat, but he disobeys the order and rushes to help his fallen comrade. With time running out, the creator decides to trigger a purge pulse, wiping out all of his soldiers inside the servers. As a result, during the convention, the entire system shuts down due to the server collapse caused by the chaos. The project lead immediately calls Eve, panicked, to inform her that Dillinger has ruined everything, but she calmly reassures him that things are under control, showing that the orange tree has remained perfectly stable even after 4 hours. Eve then stores the Permanence code on a USB drive and heads to her office, riding her motorcycle with the digital convergence laser in tow. Elsewhere, Dillinger synthesizes several light cycles and orders ARES and Athenia to hunt Kim down. As Kim makes her way to the office, ARES locates and intercepts her with Athenia. Realizing she's being followed, Kim speeds up. A police officer orders her to pull over, but ARES races past, activates his laser, and slices the patrol car clean in half. Kim manages to lose Athenia in a parking garage, where she knocks her out and steals her motorcycle to continue her escape. But once outside, she runs into ARES, triggering a high-speed chase straight out of a classic Tron game. As Eve struggles to figure out how the light cycle works, ARES relentlessly pursues her all the way to a factory near the coastline. The chase continues on foot until they reach the edge of the sea. With nowhere left to run, Eve smashes the USB containing the code and hurls it into the ocean. ARES tries to stop her, but his time runs out. At that moment, one of Dillinger's operatives appears, attacks Eve, and drags her into the digital world. Back in reality, Dillinger's mother confronts him yet again, reminding him that his reckless actions have severely damaged the company and that he needs to stop immediately. The scene shifts back to the digital world, where Eve is reconstructed in a cybernetic form. ARES requests a full system scan to ensure there's no corruption within her code. Soon, her identity disk appears and is connected to her body, granting her life and digital consciousness once again. ARES reports the situation to his creator, who orders him to extract the necessary information. Although Eve doesn't remember the Permanence code itself, her memory holds enough fragments to retrieve it. However, ARES realizes that if they attempt to pull the code directly from her, it will kill her. He warns his creator about this, but the warning falls on deaf ears. The order remains the same. No matter the cost, the code must be obtained. Becoming fully self-aware, ARES pretends to agree with the plan in front of Athenia, but in that moment, a phrase echoes in his memory, "I am not afraid, and that makes me powerful." With that thought, he decides to protect Eve. Meanwhile, Athenia informs the creator of ARES' true intentions. Furious, the creator commands her to eliminate ARES and recover the code. A brutal fight breaks out between the two programs, shattering the ground beneath them. Several soldiers fall to their deaths during the collapse. ARES and Eve plunge into the water below and manage to escape. Athenia considers jumping after them, but ultimately chooses to deploy search drones instead. She then contacts ARES, demanding to know what's happening. He tells her that Dillinger wants to get rid of her. She asks where he's taking Eve, and ARES replies that he's bringing her somewhere safe, promising to save her if she gives him the code, because the only thing he truly wants is to live. Eventually, they reach the portal, where Eve is rematerialized by the lasers into the real world. ARES fights off the guards to ensure her escape. Realizing the situation, she reminds him that he only has 29 minutes of life left. Shortly after, ARES transfers the Master Control's power to Athenia. The two then attempt to reach the location where the copy of the code is stored, but ARES realizes they won't make it in time. He instructs Set to head to NCOM's headquarters with the convergence laser. Eve and ARES steal a car and race toward the building. During the drive, they talk about their shared love for 80s music, and ARES tells her everything he's learned about her. When they finally arrive at NCOM, ARES has just 3 minutes of life remaining. they enter Kevin Flynn's office, a direct nod to the original creator of the grid. Inside, the walls are covered with blueprints, photos, and designs for the light cycles and devices seen in the previous two films. Once everything is ready, they prepare to send ARES into the original digital world. They explain that he'll only be inside briefly and will be extracted as soon as he retrieves the Permanence code. But just as he's about to enter, Athenia watches from outside the office and makes a fateful choice. At the last second, a blast of energy hits her, launching ARES into the heart of the retro 1980s digital world. Athenia launches a direct attack, but once she realizes what's happening, she destroys the laser and pushes Set aside. As she tries to escape, she runs through various video game environments. Suddenly, the emergency sprinklers activate, distracting her with a sensation she's never experienced before, and so in those final fleeting moments, she fails her directive and ceases to exist. It quickly becomes clear that ARES won't be able to return from the digital world. Inside the grid, ARES encounters a bit, a small sentient data unit, who assists him and hands him an energy rod that powers up the classic Tron light cycle. The bit then guides him through the system's fissures. Meanwhile, at Dillinger's facility, something begins to synthesize its Athenia. Dillinger demands to know what's happening, and she calmly replies that she's simply following his orders to obtain the code no matter the cost. When someone tries to stop her, Athenia kills Dillinger's mother with her identity disk, coldly reminding him of his own words. "Don't be afraid, we've sacrificed 1,000 lives in the grid, and you'll just be one more." At that moment, Dillinger realizes he's fallen victim to his own programming. Guided by Bit, ARES arrives at a special location, a central base where one of the saga's most iconic characters begins to materialize, Kevin Flynn himself, who welcomes ARES into the digital realm. Outside, technicians race to repair the laser while ARES recounts everything he's experienced within the network to AJ. During their conversation, Kevin greets him and admits it's unusual to see a program that wants to live. ARES explains that, at first, he only desired life for himself, but now he's seeking the code to save Eve. Back in the office, they detect an incoming recognizer approaching. Eve's plan is to use Dillinger's laser to create a bridge and cut the digital soldiers off from the network. Once again, in the digital world, ARES talks with Kevin, telling him why 80s music is his favorite. In the real world, Dillinger hears the final words of his dying mother, who, with her last breath, blames him for everything that has happened. Meanwhile, Eve starts running as a recognizer approaches from the sky, this time taking the form of a helicopter, while Athenia dodges attacks, deploys drones, and traps Eve to prevent her escape. When Athenia loses control of the recognizer, she decides to descend. Back in the grid, Kevin Flynn continues speaking with ARES and hands him the Permanence code, though he explains that it should really be called the Impermanence code. He reminds ARES that this is the only life he'll ever have before sending him back to the real world through the same laser once seen in the Tron Legacy arcade. Athenia kidnaps Eve and tries to take her away, but ARES is waiting for them at the end of the street. He throws his identity disc, and we see that his appearance has changed. His suit is now white, a symbol of his newfound humanity. ARES and Athenia clash in a brutal fight. She warns him that she will kill him, and that once she regenerates and gains more time, she'll come back for Eve. As the battle rages, ARES begins to lose, but Eve hurls her own disc to protect him. In the end, only ARES and Athenia remain standing. Meanwhile, AJ hacks into Dillinger's system, taking him on in the digital space. Athenia berates ARES for abandoning his purpose. He replies that fulfilling that purpose is part of his programming, but the true purpose is something he still doesn't fully understand. Athenia's time runs out, and she fades away, allowing ARES and Eve to finally escape. Soon after, the two sit together. ARES tells her that nothing is permanent, and she asks what he plans to do now that he has a life. He smiles and says he has many ideas. Finally, Eve turns herself in to the authorities. Before he can be arrested, Dillinger manages to upload himself into the digital world. Sometime later, Eve develops numerous projects that benefit humanity, all thanks to the Permanence code. One day, she receives a postcard from ARES, revealing everything that happened and sharing the story of a completely new world he's come to know. Inside the digital realm, Dillinger is shown to have survived. But as he looks around, he sees that everything has been destroyed by the massive explosion caused during ARES and Athenia's final battle. Suddenly, his identity disc appears behind him, displaying a circular pattern never seen before. As he reaches for it, the disc begins to transform, and an advanced armor starts to materialize over his body.